through the door and somebody would take care of all the various different inquiries that I had. Now, if I go online, because of the various different GDS complications and which offers are available, and if you go to the various websites, it's very difficult to get a proper round-the-world trip booked. And then you've got the accommodation on top of that, and you've got the sightseeing, etc., etc. So while our choices have expanded exponentially in travel, and I mean properly exponentially, we have so much choice that we've never had before, right in our hands, literally in our hands. Our ability to book it has not kept pace. And this is why tech companies, and there's quite a few OTAs in the room today, and meta-search sites have gained so much ground from direct supply, simply because they are tech companies first. They focus on technology problems. They remove any of the challenges that consumers might have without thinking about the bigger ships of, need to open a new hotel or need to get another airline, another flight up and running. So the travel to purchase is complex, and ultimately what we also know is when people make up their minds is that they want it now. And it's going to be absolutely no surprise that the one thing that people hate more than anything else is friction. And people will move when friction does exist. They will move simply to another operator, another provider, when friction is standing in their way. And that friction could be simply your website takes longer to load, or your form is too complex to fill in. And I would say arguably that friction is your single biggest threat to your organization if you're selling direct to consumers today. What is really interesting is actually the numbers that sit behind this. So somebody's making, where others are losing. And what we do know, and we've got loads of different, and you can access many of these different points yourselves, but 40% of website visitors in Europe, Middle East and Africa, 40% will leave their experience within 3 seconds if your site is not loading. That's an 86 billion euro opportunity, which is effectively lost or moved on to somewhere else. So what we're doing at Facebook, and particularly where our focus on the travel industry's conversation, is to move towards a zero friction future. How can we help you as businesses and travel organizations utilize our technology suites to be better at what you are without worrying about the technology? How can we help you be more accurate with your targeting? How can we help you be better at customer service? How can we help you worry less about technology things? Let us worry about that. And this is where we fall under the 3 key phases and 3 key areas of discovery, booking, and post-booking. So what we also know is that at every single stage of this journey, all 3 stages, is that the bar of, the bar of expectation is getting higher and higher. Is that whenever one company does something really well and changes the script, and again, we use the likes of the food delivery companies, Deliveroo, Uber Eats, etc., or the other tech companies that have focused on a friction and made it better, is that suddenly then there's an expectation that this is going to be the standard across the industries. So I ask anyone to raise their hand for the last time that they picked up a phone and phoned a taxi. Not a single hand has gone up. Well, either you're too conscious of putting your hand up. I've never had 0 put their hands up before, so that is an absolute new one for me. But nowadays, you would not see a single, or you would not have an expectation that you would need to pick up the phone and phone a taxi. I live in, I'm from Ireland originally. I'm from a little town just outside of Belfast. We don't have Uber in that little town outside of Belfast. It is one of the most frustrating things I can tell you. Not being able to phone or to get an Uber ride. We don't have food delivery. You have to phone the local food delivery in order to get the food delivery. Again, one of the most frustrating things. So expectation is being set, and all companies are expected therefore to meet that expectation, just like on various different distribution channels. I expect to go to a marketplace to book my accommodation. I expect to check out on the hotel's website or on the accommodations website for price parity. If I have that, I'm going to go with what has got least friction in my booking. So we also know that 76% of consumers that we've surveyed say that they would switch from one brand to another if they're not getting the experience and the expectations that they've set out. And that comes in many different ways, and that comes in terms of pricing, it comes in terms of expectation on the actual journey itself, or it comes with things like content, as very simple as, is the information on my website or mobile correct, and is the pricing information trustworthy? And some of these areas, as we have talked about, we all experience ourselves. So some people accept friction, and generally what we know is that many people will not accept friction and move to the competitor companies that exist in that space. And we help everyone to have, in these areas and many other areas, remove the friction from their journeys. And one of the ways that we do this is certainly in the discovery phase, is through the advertising capabilities. And 95% of Facebook's revenue is from advertising, and it's a core focus of ours. And the discovery is one of the areas that we're super strong in. So we have various different formats that help brands and partners do this, from videos, stories, and also augmented reality and virtual reality. 50% of people that report imagery on Instagram is a clinching factor in deciding where they're going to go. And 48% use Instagram as a research tool on that journey of making the final decision and booking. However, what's also been a real focus over the last 2 years of Facebook has been the technology integration into your systems, whether it be on your own inventory system, if you're in-house manager, or on the GDSs that you have, is the ability to book directly into your system. So we know that the message is going to the right person at the right time, and it's also dependent on your availability. For us, it's about becoming a cost of sale rather than a marketing cost. We move from being just purely discovery, coming across by accident on Facebook news feeds, to actually being built on a real strong algorithm of intent. And those intent signals come from hundreds of thousands of different sources to tell us that this person, Terry, for example, is interested in traveling to New York on the 4th of July. So in the discovery phase as well, what we also know is that with this wealth of information that's existing, it's very complex for people to retain information. So we've built various different tools, but one of the tools that we've built for consumers is on collections. So people can tag and build into an agenda, if you will, their own brochure, their own catalogue, all of the things that they're interested in. And this helps people to define the journeys that they see that other people are influencing, and helps us to get better and more accurate advertising for you as travel brands to reach consumers. So one of the areas which I think is very early stages is augmented reality and virtual reality. And although Oculus Rift is now, I think, about a 5-year-old company, we are still exceptionally early days when it comes to this kind of technology, and particularly this type of technology within the travel industry. Just by the sheer reach of Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp, etc., virtual reality and augmented reality currently pales in comparison. But what we do know is that people are interested, and people will utilize the technology in various different ways, but in the travel industry what we know is that people want to use this technology in order to help them make better decisions. Not just obviously the travel industry, but many other industries as well. So people do see this as being a big core component of the future of travel. And we're not there yet, this is very early days. But the content is coming, people are building the content, the technology is getting better every single day, and this will become a natural part of people's decision making, as in being able to see themselves within destinations or the product that they're about to purchase. Oh, sorry, I seem to have jumped far too far ahead there. We're getting a glimpse of everything that's about to come. Technology is great when it works. From a booking perspective, as Facebook, we don't currently have booking tools within our platforms. Not directly, not within advertising, not within news feeds. However, I think it's fairly safe to say that this will be the future, will be one of the futures that we are looking at as an organization. And particularly when it comes to things like messaging and instant messaging. We see Facebook platforms, WhatsApp, Messenger, Stories, etc., as well as the news feeds, as being a core component to people's lives, not just from a content perspective or a communications perspective, but from the ability to do things and integrate into their lives in a more, I guess, pragmatic way. We want people and travelers to actually utilize these tools to help them make the decisions faster, smarter. And we want to help you as organizations remove the friction that you face from slow servers or from ability to integrate into real-time availability, or actually understanding who it is that you're targeting and who it is that you want to book your products. So we also know that guests want seamless technology. They want technology and they want it in the one place. So again, the ability to not have to jump between various different platforms, websites, apps, etc., in order to see their journey through to the end, but actually store it in a single place where they can access information at every single step without needing to jump from place to place. So we want this to be ultimately the same, Facebook platforms to be the place that we go, and information is all there, ready to utilize at every single step of the journey. And a good example of this, I guess the look to book example of EasyJet is very early days, but the ability to take somebody from an image all the way through to booking through identity recognition, image recognition, and to book very, very quickly. Airbnb are a great example of how to utilize our tools and integrating into their availability. So they run a great campaign with us called Look to Book. We've identified various different profiles of people interested in various different destinations, and we built the campaigns with Airbnb specifically on their direct interest. They're signaling to us through the data points that they're interested in specific destinations, not any destination. So this personalization is absolutely a necessity and no longer a nicety. And the days, I guess, of throwing money at big campaigns without clear attribution all the way through to the end are gone. Margins are just as important. So from a post-booking perspective, one of the strengths of where I guess the future will be for Facebook platforms is the ability to maintain a communication throughout the journey with your travelers, with your customers. And post-booking, we also know that there's a huge challenge with expectations on customer service levels, on trust, on the ability to contact brands the way that consumers want to contact brands. So one of the areas that we're focusing on is obviously bots, and building bots to help you as businesses respond to the various different kinds of communications that come your way, and building it in through artificial intelligence and through real language recognition, etc. And great examples of this are throughout Facebook platforms. And we also know that, and I'll come on to those examples in a second, we also know that people are interested and prefer to be contacted by messaging rather than voice or in person. So what's the other thing about messaging? I think it's important to say is that people feel confident and more confident about your brands when they're able to contact via messaging. They show trust, and they feel personally catered for as well. And a great example of this has been KLM and how KLM have integrated into our platforms. So all aspects of the journey can be managed through Messenger. You can get your boarding pass, you can change your flights, you can upgrade, etc. You can book ancillary revenues, book ancillary products for your revenues. And all it is a case of ticking a box and letting the other technology take its role. So some of these challenges that people have when friction points post-booking include loyalty programs not stored, delays and cancellations, information that people have access to, that information comes to them rather than them having to seek it out. Simple things like gate changes on airlines can all be managed through the artificial intelligence, through the programming on Messenger. And there's a number of different ways that we can do this, but ultimately you know your business best. Our technology permits you to build into messaging, it permits you to build into natural language recognition, it permits you to do a number of things, and ultimately makes it more personal to your organization or your travel brand. But it's I guess a bit of types of engagement that people are seeking, whether it be flights or accommodation. There's some very clear and simple signals that people are interested in. And as mentioned, whether it be upselling ancillary products or whether it be actually sending information on gate changes, etc., it's super important to the individual and to be in a place where they trust and know. And just a good example from myself last night was while I was doing a bit of research, Emirates Golf Club popped up and told me that there's a 6,400 dirham summer campaign happening right now. Very personalised to me, and if I want my golf to get good, I'll be taking them up on this offer during the summer. So personalisation throughout post-booking, travel, during travel, etc. is a critical component of removing any friction. And just as an FYI, I done a bit of research on the various different airlines that are available, and some are very advanced stages of their messaging experiences, where you're able to book, where you're able to buy your flights, and some are not, where it's more human interaction. But what I think is really important is that this is still very early phases, and this is the start of a journey which we see at Facebook as being a critical future as in messaging. And of course, WhatsApp has only started to roll out. So WhatsApp is a great example of how 2.7 billion people on our platforms on a monthly basis, a large proportion of them on WhatsApp, and particularly within this market, want to integrate, want to do more than just message, and they want businesses to work with them directly. So now that you're familiar with some of our solutions, I guess the question to you is, to get closer to a zero friction future, we need to make it personal and exciting. We need to talk to people where they want to talk. We need to shorten the path to conversion. And during post-purchase, we need to build loyalty and make sure that the communication is very straightforward. So we are ultimately delivering the promise of now and removing the friction that exists in all aspects of travel. So thank you very much. I would love to take some questions. Someone's got to go first.
Are you integrating voice into this as well?
It's a great question. Voice is huge. The future of voice and all aspects of consumers' life. Voice is it's there in every single part of our day-to-day lives, and we know how big voice is going to be in the future. Right now, I can't give you more detail on what we're doing with voice, but absolutely, voice would be a consideration for our future.
Okay, because I think it's a great product, and I do understand that it removes friction. But it reintroduces friction also, because sometimes you don't find the voice element missing. So if that happens, I think it makes a perfect product.
Yeah, and look, the hardware manufacturers as well are critical to this. But from a platform, from a WhatsApp, from a Messenger and Facebook perspective, yes, we are concentrating on voice as one of the features.
Hello. Firstly, thank you so much for the insight. I actually want to ask you, how can we go about integrating these chatbots on Facebook? Like, let's say today I want to go back to my office and start actually looking into the process of how to do it as a hotel. So how would we go about it?
Yeah, it's a solid query because many companies don't have the technical capabilities in-house to do this. So we've got something called Facebook Marketing Partners, which is a group, a very large group of technology partners that we recommend that companies work with in order to do this, so you don't need to worry about the suite of challenges that come with it and not having the technology in-house. And if you just do a search for Facebook Marketing Partners, you'll see a full suite of these. There's quite literally hundreds of them. We're able to identify ones which are local markets as well. And you know, for what you've seen here today is only a snippet of what is possible. If you go to facebook.com/travelfb, as in Freddie Bravo, there's a whole host of other information there as well.
Thank you so much. One more question. Now if I want to get some best practices, just as a hotel, because nowadays the most popular things are the 10-second videos where we capture as much of the attention we can in those few seconds. So apart from that, what are some best practices that are there right now when you're promoting yourself on Facebook as a hotel to generate bookings? As you said, Airbnb is doing it well. So what are some other things you would suggest based on your experience?
Yeah, so I mean, look, ultimately, this has to tie back to some kind of ROI and it has to tie back to your distribution plan. So I would always say, from a hotel background myself, is you have to align whatever it is you're doing to the distribution conversation within the hotel, to the brand conversation. Some of the best practices really does depend on what it is you want to achieve. Ranging from awareness in certain markets through to actually sales within specific time frames or specific products. I think what's really important is that there's a suite of products there which enables you to do this, to find existing audiences, new audiences, new markets as well that you didn't think existed. There's not one single answer to the best practices. There's lots of different really, really good practices. And I think what's important to understand is iteration is important. So being able to not go all out on massive campaigns, invest all your money straight up, but to try iteration approaches and to try multi-variant approaches to your campaigns to see which one works best. And then to pivot off that. Again, the Facebook Marketing Partners, there's marketing partners that we have which help you do this, to run quite literally thousands upon thousands of advertisements at the same time, and then to focus and double down on the ones which are working the best, and then invest further in that.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. A specific question regarding security and how Facebook is addressing that, especially for some of the larger players who would be very concerned about having their client data exposed to whoever.
Yeah, so it's a very pertinent question. Obviously, there's been a lot of press around how Facebook is utilizing data in recent months, if not a year or so. The reality is that there's nothing more important to Facebook than the data of the people who are using Facebook or the companies which are investing in Facebook. Quite simply because without the trust of people on our platforms, we have very little. And I think one of the things that Mark Zuckerberg has come out recently and stated has been the need for further global utilization of things like GDPR. So we have standards across the world in terms of data management and data utilization. In terms of specifically on what you're referring to, in terms of things like custom audiences or passing data back to Facebook, the data that we're actually receiving from your information is hashed in a very complex way, so we don't receive any data from you at all. We do matching through a hash technique. So we're very public about this. We're very public about how we handle the data, and very public in terms of transparency of data as well. So we know all advertising which source of information it comes from. But I'll be happy to talk to you in more depth about it. It's not one subject I can answer in 1 minute. It's probably a much deeper conversation. Okay. Thank you very much for staying to the end.